Inside of your wrist now. Thank you. All right, so your ID.
Yeah. What's going on, brother?
My hand's cold.
I ran an 8-minute mile for a while, and that was like my most fast running. The sign says sold out.
Yeah, there'll be a wait list, so just kind of camp out by the wall. I'll let you know. Inside of your wrist now. Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Enjoy the show.
This guy coming to stage. The man you all come to see. Start clapping now for Mr. Wyatt Cenac!
All right. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming. That's all I got. I just wanted to see if I could bring you guys here, and I proved it. So, Gypsy, it worked. Give me my soul back. It's very cool to be here. This is really cool, especially because we're here in Brooklyn, and I live in Brooklyn, so this is incredibly convenient for me. If this show was in Manhattan, I would not be here. You all might still be here, but then you would hear that I didn't show up because I don't like to take the train at night. I tried living in Manhattan once. I tried for like a year. Everyone's like, you gotta live in New York City, you're gonna live in New York City. And so I got an apartment in this fancy building in Manhattan. And I knew that it was a fancy building because there were all these West Indian nannies that worked there. When I say West Indian nannies, I'm talking about Jamaican nannies, Haitian nannies, really the Rolls Royce of nanny. And I would see them in the hallways and in the elevators, and they were always really surprised to see me because they thought I was a male nanny. Just like, oh, good for you doing your mama's work. We thinking of starting a play group. I live in this building. Oh, you live with the family. Oh, it's a green card situation. That building was the first building I ever lived in where I had a doorman. I'd never had a doorman before. And a doorman, I can open my own damn door. I feel fairly confident in my door opening abilities. Doorman is weird. Doorman is one of those jobs where I feel like you probably don't have that much to talk about after work. I feel like as a doorman, somebody's like, hey man, how was your day? Oh, you know, a little this, a little that, a little more of this. Oh, and then that was hard. Management's talking about getting a revolving door. I'm not trained on that. I have to take night classes. The building I lived in, I had this doorman, and he was a black dude, and he was my age. And that was really weird. More so because he was my age. Like an old black doorman, that'd be weird, but I feel like he'd make it okay. I feel like he'd try to make it okay. He'd be like, oh, young brother, no. You don't feel weird about this at all. No, you don't. Look, I marched in the 60s so that you could live in a building like this. All right? So I want you to walk in here with your head high and you fuck all those white ladies. Fuck them all, from the basement to the penthouse. Fuck every last one of them. Do it for me, do it for Dr. King. This doorman was a black dude and he was my age, and that was weird because, here's the thing. I'll tell you a little secret about black dudes in their 30s. We don't respect each other. We don't. We get along, but you take any two black dudes in their 30s, I don't care where you put them. You can put them in the lobby of an apartment building. You can put them in a conference room at a Fortune 500 company. You can put them on a subway train. There will be a moment, one moment, where those two black dudes will look at each other and each of them will think, if this subway ride were to all of a sudden just magically turn into a basketball game, he can't guard me. He can't guard me. I could take him. Because there's no way we're going to be on the same team together. They're going to split us up. Look, if Malcolm and Martin couldn't work together, what chance is there for him and me? No. And it was always competitive with me and this doorman. It was always weirdly competitive because he'd do all these things, and every time I come home, he'd always be like, "Welcome home, Mr. Cenac," and I'd be like, "You don't have to call me Mr. Cenac," and he was like, "Yes, I do, Mr. Cenac," and I was like, "Stop it," and he was like, "I can, Mr. Cenac." It got to the point where I started just leaving the apartment wearing headphones, and he'd still call me Mr. Cenac, and I knew because they weren't plugged into anything. And he was always holding the door open for me, making me feel like Sam Jackson's character in Django. There were times when I would come home and I would just hang out across the street and wait for him to go on break just so I could go use the door myself. And then I'd wait for him to come off break and I'd open the door for him. Just like, "Welcome home, Mr. Door." I don't know your last name. I'm sorry. One time, I remember this one time, I ordered a book online. And I just ordered this little book, And the book came and he was like, "Hey, Mr. Cenac, you got a package." And he ran off to the mailroom, he came back with his little box, and he put it on a luggage cart. And he was like, "Don't hurt yourself, Cenac." The worst though, there was one day when I was going, that wasn't the worst. The worst, I was going out of town for something and I had to catch a cab. And so I called a car service, and the car service came, and I made my way down to the lobby. The doorman sees me and he runs to the door, and immediately he's just holding the door open. And I'm thinking, fuck, I cannot leave now because I don't want to get on this airplane. God forbid this airplane crash and I die, and this doorman thinks he won. I don't fucking want that. I don't want this doorman, smug-ass doorman, showing up to my funeral, like closing my casket for me, like, "Let me help you with that." So I didn't know what to do. He's standing at the door, and I had a decision to make, so I faked him out. I went to the mailbox, and I pretended to check my mail for the next 15 minutes. And then he was just standing there, and after a while, he gave up, and he went to his desk, and he sat down, and the minute his butt touched the chair, I ran for the door. And I was just running, and then he saw me, and he started running. And now we're both running, and he's gaining on me. And let me just say right now, the only reason he's gaining on me is because I had luggage. Like I said, I'd have taken him if it was a pickup game of basketball. He can't guard me. But luggage, I didn't account for. We hit the door at the same time. Now we're boxing each other out, both trying to open this door. And I'm like, "Yo, Steve, back off. I'm an adult. I can open my own damn door." And he grabs me, and he's like, "I know you can open your own damn door, nigga!" Which may have been the only time he never called me Mr. Cenac. But he was like, "I know, you think I want to open this door for you? I don't want to open this door for you. Mrs. Goldenbaum, Mrs. Goldenbaum, welcome home, welcome, welcome, welcome." "Look, fool, I don't want to open this door for you, but these people can't see you opening your own damn door. They'll get ideas. They'll start thinking, wait a minute, I can just use these to open a door? Then what the fuck are we paying Steve for? We should kill Steve." Like, "Shit, Steve, I'm sorry." He's like, "You know the fucked up part? My name's not even Steve. It's Marcus. They just gave me Steve's name tag after they killed Steve." I had to leave that building. It was too weird. It was just Manhattan in general. I never felt comfortable in Manhattan. And so I moved to Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. Part of the reason I love Brooklyn so much is because my grandmother lived in Brooklyn. And so when I was a kid, I would spend my summers here. And I just hang out with my grandmother, and we'd go to like to the park, and we'd have lunch in the park, or she'd take me to Fulton Mall, and we'd buy like jerseys and stuff together. We like to match jerseys. Just, you know, I'd be Jordan, she'd be Pippen. It was fun. But I just had all this fun hanging out with my grandmother in Brooklyn. My grandmother lived in Crown Heights. And so when I was moving back to Brooklyn, I was like, oh, you know, what would be really cool and just like a really cool full circle thing is if I don't move to Crown Heights. Because Crown Heights was scary. Like when I was a kid, Crown Heights was a scary fucking place. Like any place in the 80s and 90s that a rapper mentioned probably is not gonna be mentioned by a real estate broker. Just like what Biggie said, what, Bed-Stuy? We can cross that off right now. Yeah. Like at that point in Brooklyn, drugs were maybe the only small batch artisanal things you could find. He was like, yeah, man, yeah, it's totally gluten-free. And my grandmother, she lived in Crown Heights. She lived right in the middle of it. And her neighborhood, her street was rough. Like, this is how bad my grandmother's neighborhood is. My grandmother passed away 15 years ago. I was in my grandmother's neighborhood recently, and I walked past her building, and her name is still on the door buzzer 15 years later. Like, that is a building that has a super. All right, if he hasn't fixed that, he is never getting to your radiator. Like he still hasn't duct taped windows from after 9/11. This is how shitty her building was. There were rats and roaches. I would see them all the time in the hallways, and it never freaked me out, which either speaks to how dumb I was or how fun it is to be around grandmothers, because you just don't pay attention to that shit. Because there was one time I was in my grandmother's apartment, I was hanging out in the living room, and this rat just walked through the middle of the living room. Like, didn't try to hide under the walls, didn't try to like sneak, just did a pimp stroll through the middle of the fucking floor. And I wasn't freaked out at all. I was just like, oh, that's one of grandma's friends. Like, I just figured, you know, he was like a Disney character or something. Like, I pull out a harmonica, he pulls out a top hat. We'll sing a song about sharing. It was a bad neighborhood. There were some dudes who lived next door who tried to rob me when I was a kid. They lived right next door. And that's, like, it's sad when you think about it, because it tells you all about how people gave up on that neighborhood, how people just gave up on kids like that. Nobody went to those kids and got in their ear early enough and said, like, hey, there's more to life. Like, you can dream bigger. You can rob people who live a few blocks away. Like, people who don't know exactly where you live. That was Crown Heights back then. That was what it was like. It's weird because Brooklyn's changing. All of Brooklyn is changing. In Brooklyn now, there's a store that just sells mayonnaise. Like, that's it, just mayonnaise, nothing else but mayonnaise, which I am convinced it is a front for the mob. I've called the FBI multiple times. They've just said, hey, thanks for the mayonnaise. It is probably the most cartoonish, stereotypical image of gentrification I have ever seen. Like, it is downright racist to white people. Like, oh, it's your neighborhood now? You'd love a mayonnaise store. Sometimes I want to hang outside of there with just like some fried chicken and some watermelon. Just wait for people to come out and just be like, I dare you to say something. Brooklyn's changing. Crown Heights is changing. Like, there are restaurants popping up in Crown Heights. It's not the same Crown Heights when my grandmother lived there. There are nice restaurants. There's wine bars, all that type of shit. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the month, Crown Heights had its own Lululemon. Which I don't know what language that word is. but I'm fairly certain that it just translates out to, and gentrification complete. Like, there was a time you judged the safety of a neighborhood by how close you were to like a police station or a fire department. Now all you gotta do is just figure out where's the closest Lululemon and like an ironically named dog grooming place. Something like Pup and Away. Oh, you got both of those? Oh, great. I could just walk around with money in my teeth, wearing a hat made of Kindles. It's changing, though. Brooklyn's changing. Where I live in a neighborhood called Fort Greene. Yes, 2 of you have heard of it. We're sharing a cab. I live in Fort Greene, and I love Fort Greene. And what's cool about Fort Greene is one of those places that it's got a very rich history and it's a very diverse background and a lot of culture there and stuff. Abolitionists used to hold meetings in Fort Greene, and there are all these amazing writers like Walt Whitman and Richard Wright, who wrote Native Son. They lived in Fort Greene, and Truman Capote lived in Fort Greene. Jazz musicians like Slide Hampton and Freddie Hubbard and Spike Lee grew up there, and Erykah Badu lives there now. I know because I've been looking for her. I want to give her my demo and my love. But it's a very diverse place, and there are times where I'll be in Fort Greene and I'll be hanging out in a bar and I'll just be there drinking for a while, and I'll look around and I'll realize that I'm the only brown person there. And I find myself thinking, even the white people must think, shit, this is a lot of fucking white people. Like, we did not move here for all these white people. We could have stayed in Tribeca for this. It's changing, though. The Barclays Center now, got the arena. And that, I remember when they were building that, people in my neighborhood, they were upset. They were just like, oh, it's gonna ruin the neighborhood. And they'd go from door to door trying to get people to like sign petitions. They were like, oh, you gotta help us stop this. And people would be like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, it's funny you mention this, because there was this lady who was trying to do the same thing you're talking about. You live in her apartment now. I'll admit, though, when they were building the arena, I was mad about it. If you're a musician and you're coming to New York, you want to play Madison Square Garden. Who wants to come to Brooklyn? Like, just for real. Like, it just seemed like you want to play MSG. Like, the Barclays Center is just going to be someplace where Beyonce stores are winter clothes. Members of Destiny's Child, she's defeated. Get in there, Michelle. It was crazy though too, because the people who were building it, they tried to spin it in this way. They were like, no, it's gonna be great. We're gonna build this arena, and then the New Jersey Nets get to move to town. Which is a terrible way to sell anything to New Yorkers. But they built the arena and it's fine. But I still see people who are still mad about the arena. People still upset about this arena. I don't know, like, are y'all cool with it? Yeah, all right. Yeah. Anybody, make some noise if you're mad about it. Okay, good. All right. Then this show, I got nothing else to say. No, but I still run into people who are mad about this arena. And I saw something that opened up recently in my neighborhood that I think is so much worse than that arena. And nobody has said anything about it. And that is a children's toy store. A children's toy store opened up in my neighborhood. And I would take 3 arenas and 10 crack houses on my street, in my bathroom, before a children's toy store. Because a children's toy store, it's not for any of you. You're adults, it's not for adults. Children's toy store, you don't want that. A children's toy store, it's basically like a strip club for children. That's all it is. Children go in there, they get all worked up, looking at things they can't touch. And they come home and bother you all night like, But also, if you're an adult who doesn't have children, you don't want a children's toy store in your neighborhood. You don't want that. You don't, as an adult with no children, think about it. I'm sure all of you have like a brunch spot that you love to go to. Try going there and eating your way through a hangover when there's a 3-year-old at the next table just screaming her head off because she hasn't figured out that Yelp is an easier way to say she's having a shitty time. This place is all gaga, no goo-goo. Even worse. Maybe it's a nice summer day. Let's all put on our imagination caps. Maybe it's a nice summer day, early in the summer, so it's like low 70s. It's a Saturday. It's beautiful outside. There's a nice breeze, and you and your friends are like, "Oh man, you know what would be great right now? We should do some day drinking. Yeah, let's do some day drinking. Yeah. Oh, we should go to that bar that we like. Yeah, the one with the outdoor space, and they have that DJ who plays cool music. Yeah, let's go there. Yeah." And you're like, oh, you know what would be great? We go and we hang out. Maybe we'll meet some people. Yeah, we make some friends, and we drink and we watch the day turn to night. You're like, yeah. You put on your good clothes, you head out the door, you show up to this bar, and it's filled with babies. Because apparently that's a thing now, where parents just bring babies into bars. You used to get arrested for that shit. I've been to bars where parents are having birthday parties for children. Like birthday parties for babies, and have the nerve to get mad at me like, "Excuse me, can you move your drink? My baby's trying to crawl here. Don't hinder her ability to explore." There's just something about that. Like, look, if I can't go to a gymboree and get shit-faced and make out with somebody on a seesaw, stay the fuck out of my playground. But it's weird because these parents, they do it because they want to prove that they can still hang out the same way they did before mommy's stomach became a timeshare. And the fucked up part is they're not proving it to themselves, and they're not proving it to their friends. They're proving it to the baby. You watch them, they get a little alcohol in their system, they start looking at that baby just like, "Fuck you, Trevor. Fuck you. Shut up. You don't change me, Trevor. I change you." I was in Brooklyn during Hurricane Sandy, and I was fortunate because where I was, we didn't lose power, and we were fine. There was no real damage where I was. The friends from out of state would call me up, and they'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was just sitting on my couch playing Xbox, drinking cocoa, just like, "I'm maintaining some money." And it was crazy because I was fine, but I remember seeing Lower Manhattan was just pitch black, just darkness. And I went into Lower Manhattan, it was scary. People were walking around with flashlights, and it was just terrifying. And I remember thinking it reminded me of that last Batman movie where Bane blew up the bridges to cut off access in and out of Gotham City. But I felt like I lived the town one over. So I could see it all. It was like, "Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I hope Batman stops Bane." But you know what? If he doesn't, I'm not gonna miss that commute. Like, were the restaurants in Gotham City really that great? I could get sushi anywhere. That movie plays a lot differently when you just view Bane as an overzealous bridge and tunnel guy. Just trying to keep people from overdeveloping his neighborhood. Now they want to bring a hockey team to Brooklyn, which I feel like if they bring a hockey team here, that's the end of the Brooklyn that I knew. That is, a hockey team is bleach in the washing machine of diversity. It is. Oh. Some friends took me to a hockey game. They took me to see New York Rangers play New Jersey Devils. And we went to Madison Square Garden. They explained to me these two teams, they hate each other. They have a storied rivalry. The last time the two teams played, there was beef between them. So the game starts, the ref drops the puck. All of a sudden, all the Rangers and all the Devils start punching the shit out of each other. Just throwing haymakers, beating the crap out of one another. And everyone in the stands just gets up and they're like, yeah! Yeah! Kill him! Kill him! And they're all screaming for blood. And as the one brown face in the crowd, I got worried. Because I just assumed I was next. And they fought for a while, and after a while, the refs stopped it. And then everybody went back to work. And everyone in the crowd, they all sat down. And they all just kind of sat down, and they just quietly watched the rest of the game. And they never seemed as happy as they did watching these guys beat the shit out of each other in a way that it felt like, you know what? Maybe lose the hockey part. I bet you people would pay $45 to just watch a barroom brawl on ice. I would. Instead of the referee dropping the puck, you just have one dude walk in and be like, hey man, I think that guy's trying to talk to your lady. And then they just beat the shit out of each other for 2 hours until that closing time song comes on the jukebox. And just have a sing-along and go home. It'd be great. People would love that. I don't think I'd go back to a hockey game. It was interesting to see, but I wouldn't go back. I appreciate hockey, though. I appreciate it. I appreciate it as a great place to just vent out a lot of concentrated white rage. That's what it is. There is a lot, because hockey is just angry white people screaming at other angry white people, and it's great because it can't really be misconstrued. Like, I've been to basketball games where I've seen dudes yell at Carmelo Anthony in a way where it feels like, is this about shot selection? Or is this about Obama? Come on, Carmelo, that's a stupid three! And you promised I could keep my health care plan! Show me your birth certificate! As for all the talk of how we became this post-racial society after Obama got elected, if you really want to see where the racial divide in this country still is, it's hockey and basketball. It really is, because hockey, these guys, they get into fights and they just get it out of their systems. The refs just let it happen. Worst case scenario, as a hockey player, you get thrown in the penalty box, which are basically just courtside seats to a hockey game you wanted to see in the first place. Like, you can't do that in basketball. Basketball, you can't even fight. You can't push another dude in basketball. They will throw you out of the game. And even worse, if you're on the sidelines and you see a fight break out and you stand up as a basketball player, they throw you out of the game. And you don't get to sit on the sidelines. They send you to the locker room, which God knows what happens back there. It's a fucking scary place where just like ghosts of old jockstraps haunting you. And some dude on ESPN calls you a thug, and you get fined a bunch of money, and you gotta try to rebuild your image by dating a Kardashian. Yeah, you should feel bad about that. Because that's the difference in justice for black and white millionaires. If that's the difference in justice for them, what shot does a 16-year-old black kid with a dime bag of weed have? And the only reason I ask is because I've been giving this kid nickel bags. And I just feel like he could push more product. It's hard being a dope dealer when you've been on TV. I'm realizing I'm getting older because junior high kids have started fucking with me. Nothing major, just little shit. These junior high kids, they threw a tin of Beefaroni on me. Like I said, little shit. Here's the thing, I was walking home and these junior high kids, they were hanging out, taking up the sidewalk like they do because they think they pay taxes. And they're throwing around a tin of Beefaroni like it's a football. And one of them drops back, throws a long bomb, and overshoots his receiver, and then Beefaroni hits me and explodes all over my shirt and all over my pants. And now it looks like I've thrown up on myself. And I don't know if you've ever smelled uncooked beefaroni, but it smells like I've thrown up on myself. And it is 3 p.m, so I don't really have a good reason for throwing up on myself. Not that there's ever a good reason to throw up on yourself, but I just had beefaroni all over myself, and I looked at this kid like, what the fuck is your problem? And he looked back at me and he was like,
You ain't gonna do shit.
and he was right. I'm not. What am I gonna do? Grab this kid by his collar, fucking drag him to his house, knock on his door, rat him out to his mother, then have to sit there in his living room while she screams at him, and then I can gaze upon the squalor that he must live in, where he's been forced to use a tin of beefaroni as a football. I don't want to see that, because I'm gonna feel bad for him, and then I'm gonna have to be this kid's big brother till he graduates high school. Because I've been a big brother, and I tried it in college, and I learned a valuable lesson. I can't be a big brother. I was in college, and I was like, you know what? I want to do something cool. I want to be a big brother, and I did it for all the right reasons. I wanted to meet girls. Not little ones, college girls. I wanted to, because here was the thing. I figured college girls would see me on campus mentoring this underprivileged inner city kid, and they'd be like,
Oh, look at him, he's so socially conscious. How mature of him. We should touch his dick. Both of us? Yeah, both of us. At the same time.
There's a problem though. If you want to help an underprivileged inner city kid, 9 out of 10 times, that's a brown kid. And as a brown guy with a brown kid, I don't look like this kid's mentor. I look like his father. And let me tell you, college girls aren't that excited about a 19-year-old and his 6-year-old son just walking around campus. I would try to explain to him, I would be like, he's not my son. And he'd be like, yes, I am! Why won't you claim me, Daddy? Fucking monster. I was curious to know what that kid was doing. I Googled him recently because I was like, I wonder what he's up to. He's in jail. So, mission accomplished. That was the point, right? It was actually kind of my fault. It was kind of my... It was, because I remember we were having this conversation, and I asked him, I was like, hey, what do you want to do when you get older? And he was like,
I want to go to jail.
And I was like, why would you want to go to jail? And he was like,
Because jail seems fun. Like, you get to play sports and you read books and you get 3 meals and you get a roommate. That's awesome.
and I was like, you could get all that stuff in college. Like, just go to college, you know? You get some college loans and you graduate and you have to pay back the loans, you know, and, that'll take you a little while. Like, maybe, I've heard horror stories, just people taking like 20, 30 years to pay back these college loans. Then they have kids and they got to pay the loans on those and they're just underwater. You know what? Live your dream. Live your dream. Sometimes I'll be on the subway and I see those kids, the ones that dance on the subway, and I always wonder, you think they do that on airplanes too? Just like, it's showtime, it's I take a lot of cabs, and I feel like if you take enough cabs in this city, you will have an awkward moment in a cab. And when I say an awkward moment in a cab, I mean something like you get into the cab and the cab driver's like, hey, why don't you be an adult for once in your life? Take some fucking responsibility for something. Be a man. And you're like, I'm trying. And then you realize he's just on the phone. It's an awkward cab moment. I had an awkward moment that happened to me in a cab. I was in a cab, and the cab driver was listening to the news on the radio. The newscaster started teasing up the next stories. The newscaster was like, stick around and we'll update you on that cab driver rapist still at large. That is an awkward moment to be in a cab. But it's made even more awkward by the newscaster's syntax choice. Because he said, cab driver rapist still at large. So it's not clear whether or not this is a story about a cab driver who rapes people rapist who only rapes cab drivers makes it weird. There's an awkwardness there. There's a tension. I felt it, and I know that the cab driver felt it too, because he was staring at me in his little mirror. And we're both just looking at each other. Neither one of us wants to be like, well, I'm not a rapist. Because that's what a rapist would say. There's really nothing we could do. We just had to get out of the cab. I go east, he goes west, and we never crossed paths again. Because I was going to rape that cab driver. That's not true. I actually have a lot of respect for cab drivers. I have a lot of respect for cab drivers because my father was a cab driver. My father drove a New York City cab, and he was actually shot on the job. And so I have a lot of respect for cab drivers as a result of that. Because I feel like we take cab drivers for granted. They're the ones that get us home safely. If it's cold outside, if it's rainy, like they get us home. And because of my dad, I always try to consider that. And I always try to over-tip cab drivers when I can. I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt. But every now and again, I'll get into a cab, and the cab driver will have his music blasting, and he'll be on his phone talking really loud, and the cab will just stink. Oh, it'll stink to high hell. And I'll roll the windows down, and then he rolls the windows back up, and he puts the child lock on. And it's in those moments that I want to lose it. And I'm like, no, Wyatt, calm down. Think about your dad right now. And I calm down. I think about my dad. And then I think, wait a minute. Was my dad this type of cab driver? Because that changes the story. Something else that changes the story is that my dad was a New York City cab driver, drove a yellow cab, was shot on the job. He was actually killed. My father was murdered, and I was a little kid when it happened. I was very little, and I didn't know how to process that information because I was so little. And so somebody at a young age, they introduced me to Batman. And they said, hey, you and Batman, like, you have so much in common. You know, well, first off, you're both boy billionaires. But they were like, you and Batman, like Batman, he lost his parents when he was little, and that hurt, but it didn't stop him from being a good person. And I took that to heart, and I then just loved Batman. And I was like, I want to be like Batman. And I would dress up like Batman for Halloween, and I would read comic books about Batman. And I'd go see all the movies, and I loved Batman. Even to this day, I still am a fan of Batman. I have a friend who is a New York police detective. He's kind of my Commissioner Gordon. He is. It was cool. He did this very cool thing for me. He actually pulled my father's police file for me and showed it to me because I knew what happened, but I didn't know all the details. So he showed it to me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing the incident report, where it happened, exactly how and when and what time. And he takes me through the whole thing, and he's showing me the next page, and he's showing me witness statements, and I'm seeing what this person saw and what this person heard. And then we get to a page. It's a mugshot of this man. And he's like, this is the guy who killed your dad. And I look at it, and it's a current mugshot. And I can see on the mugshot that he's out. He's out, and he's been out for a few years, and he lives in Brooklyn, where I live. There's a chance me and this guy have been on the subway train together at the same time, or we've maybe passed each other on the sidewalk. And that started to hit me in this way where I realized I am not ready to deal with this physically. Mentally, I'm fine, but physically, I spent my whole life looking up to Batman. Batman spent his whole life learning kung fu, judo, taekwondo, all in the hope that if he were to ever meet the guy who killed his parents, he could beat the shit out of them. To this point in my life, all I have done is take a cooking class. The best I could do is make this guy a quiche. Just like, no, sir, you are gonna eat that. Eat it, eat the whole thing. You know what? I know it's a little salty, I know. But you know what? It was made with love. The love of a boy who didn't know his father. That's why it's salty. Boom, revenge is the dish best served. Oh shit, I fucked that up. Give it back. Give it back, give it back. That was my fault. When I saw the guy, I wasn't angry. It just didn't mean anything. I looked at his whole life, and this moment that changed my life, it also changed his life. And it was weird to see that and to see that we are linked in this way. And that's not to say that if he didn't kill my dad, I still wouldn't be here. Chances are I'd still be here. I'd just be bitching about how I went to prom in a taxi cab. My favorite superhero is the Green Arrow. Bitching about like, I couldn't even kiss my date at the end of the night because my dad kept the meter running. And the Green Arrow shoots green arrows. That was dark, I know. We went to a dark place. But I'm doing this, it's all gonna be turned into a vinyl record, so this would probably be the place where, if you're listening at home, you could turn the record over and be like, shit, what? Whew. You guys are just here, you have to deal with it. But that means I also have to do something like I gotta tell some silly joke to change the subject so we can cleanse the palate. I've been going to a lot of weddings lately. I have been going to a lot of weddings lately because I love doing the electric slide. That's how I keep my carbon footprint low. I've been to a ton of weddings. This past year I went to 6 weddings. And I'm sick of going to weddings. I had 6 friends who got married and I'm done. I'm sick of it. Mainly because I don't want to buy anybody another fucking wedding gift. You got married, that's the gift. You found love, that should be the fucking gift. You want a salad spinner on top of that? Fuck you. You're being greedy. And I feel like some of my friends are realizing they're being greedy because now they're saying stuff like, hey, you could get us a gift or you could make a charitable donation in our honor. Oh, that's great, I could make a charitable donation in your honor. Yeah, so you look like the hero. And I get stuck on some charity's mailing list for the rest of my life. Like that, you can't unsubscribe from a charity mailing list. You can't do that. You can't call them up and be like, look, I want to stop getting your newsletters. I want to stop getting your postcards. Yeah, I know you help children. Fuck them. You know what? I already helped a kid and he turned out fine. Part of it for me, though, is also I have this weird thing where I can't throw away a piece of paper that has my name on it. I can't. Like, it's some weird thing. I don't know. I feel like I'm throwing away a piece of myself or something. I don't know what it is, but I can't throw it away. And so I just hang on to anything that has my name on it. So if it's like charity mail or junk mail or receipts, or if somebody writes a note, I'll hang on to it. And it started to get to this point where things were piling up so high that I started putting all these pieces of paper into those big blue bins like Walter White kills people in Breaking Bad. And at some point then, the blue bins started to pile up, and I realized I was starting to look like a hoarder. But not just any hoarder, I was looking like the most arrogant hoarder in the world of hoarders. Because most hoarders, it's like, oh, I'm gonna keep these newspaper articles, and I'm gonna keep this paper towel roll in case I wanna make a periscope. Whereas me, it was just like, my name's too pretty for the garbage. But I realized I needed to do something because I just found myself realizing like, no woman wants to fuck a hoarder. And the one that does, no. But I did, I was like, you know what, I need to take control, I need to do something about this, and so I figured, you know what, I'll have a fire. I'll just have a bonfire, and I'll burn all this stuff, because fire is cleansing, and it's transformative, and I won't be able to see my name anymore, it'll destroy it. And I was like, yeah! And my landlady was like, no. So then, my plan B was, I'll get a shredder. I'll get a paper shredder, and I'll put it all in the paper shredder, and the shredder will destroy it, and it'll chop it up into these little pieces so I can't read my name anymore. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I went out, and I got this giant shredder, and I just started shredding stuff, and it felt good, just shredding. Just this weight coming off, and just shredding all these things. And I learned something about shredders, which is that shredders get tired. I didn't realize that. They overheat, and they stall out, where they're just like,
hold on, man, what the fuck? What's going on here? Is this a boiler room situation? Are the feds after you, or are you running some sort of mob front mayonnaise shop? What the fuck, man?
And there's nothing worse than a shredder crapping out on you halfway through mangling a Tom's Shoes catalog. Just some picture of like a little Ecuadorian kid looking up at you like, oh, why, Mr. Cenac? I told you call me Wyatt, don't call me Mr. Cenac. And it was you and me, Paolo. I didn't want these fucking shoes. The only reason I bought this shit was because my friends didn't register for enough shit at Crate and Barrel. And when I say enough shit, I mean cheap shit. Most of my friendships, we're not food processor level friendships. We're more napkin rings level friendships. And I'm not even gonna get them all 8. I'm getting them 5. Because I don't think they can get 8 people in their 1-bedroom apartment. You know what? If they ever move to a bigger place, I will bring them the other 3 as a housewarming gift. Got all these married friends now. Got all these married guy friends. I'm sick of hanging out with married guys, which is something I never thought I'd say. I feel like that's something that like a 23-year-old receptionist at an art gallery says.
I'm sick of hanging out with married guys, but they pay my rent.
I am though, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hanging out with married guys because as a single guy, when you hang out with married guys, you just got yourself 5 wingmen you did not ask for. Imagine you're a 747 and then the Blue Angels flight squad just flies in formation around you and just sends you into a war zone, then peels off at the last minute. That's what it is. Like married guys, they see their single friends as just this laboratory for all the crazy ideas they have that they think would work on a lady, but they can't try them because they're married. So all these fucked up, stupid ideas they have, they just pawn off on their single friends where they're like,
Hey, Wyatt, you see that woman over there? Go over to her and stick your finger in her ear. Just stick it deep in her ear. No, trust me, it'll work. My wife loves it when I do it. Come on, dude. All right, fine. You don't want to do that? Okay, you see that couple over there? See the man and woman? Go over to them. Buy him a drink, huh? Yeah. You're thinking outside the box. Come on, man. You got. Look, I know these things. I'm married, man. Okay, fine. You want to do that? You see a woman who just went to the bathroom? Follow her. Follow. Kick in the door. Come on, man. You gotta do this stuff. I can't do these things anymore because I'm married. I have to live vicariously through you now.
I feel like whenever a married guy says he wants to live vicariously through me, I just want to make him watch me masturbate. It's like, this is it. Yep. This is what you signed up for. Yeah. Oh, you thought I was going to talk to her? That's not how I operate. No. No. My interactions with women are kind of like my interactions with produce. Best when they're organic and usually spoil after about 3 days. Which is my own fault. Don't all for that, because it's my fault. I've realized, like, it's my own fucking fault. Because I've at this age in my life, I have never had a serious relationship. I've never had a serious relationship. Never had a girlfriend for more than a few months. Never lived with a girlfriend. Never traveled with a girlfriend. Never met a girlfriend's parents. Never done any of that stuff. And that bothers me because I'm realizing I need to figure my shit out. Or I need to become a serial killer. It's a wake-up call when you watch a documentary about a serial killer and the way his neighbors describe him could be the way your OkCupid profile reads. I'm just like, yeah, he was really neat and clean. Threw his trash out in the middle of the night. Quiet, except for when he was shredding. Holy shit, that's me. I need to start eating people. And I love basements. I love basements. I do, because I didn't grow up with basements. And I remember as a kid, I went to Cleveland, and people in Cleveland, they have these amazing basements. They're finished basements where they turn them into little movie theaters and rec rooms, and I always thought that was really cool. But as a single man in his 30s apartment hunting in New York, I can't go up to somebody and be like, hey, so what's the basement situation like? Is it soundproof? I've realized I will commit to a bad TV show before a decent relationship. It's true, there are times I think my DVR just looks at me and is like,
Really? You're gonna see Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again? You fucking hate that show. You scream at the TV. You called it Scooby-Doo on an airplane. But you're gonna give it another week. Really? But Teresa had to go because she died.
Which let me just say, in my defense, pork is delicious. It's so good. And I know that's immature. But I've realized I'm immature. I still buy condoms like I did when I was in high school. I do, where I like try to make sure there's nobody in the aisle with me. And then I go quickly grab the condoms and I sandwich them between a magazine and a box of oatmeal. The magazine cradles it like a taco. The box of oatmeal hides it. Then I take it up to the counter. I fucking wait, make sure nobody's around, slide it to the clerk, make no eye contact, pay cash so there is no record of this transaction. Sometimes I don't even wait for change. I just fucking run out the door. Because my big fear is that I'll be on a date at some point and the clerk from the drugstore will show up and be like, oh, is this who you fucking? Oh, girl, you should be careful. He's just gonna feed you oatmeal in the morning. Which I am. I want to stop seeing this woman because she gave me a hickey. Stop seeing this lady because she gave me a hickey and she was not 15 years old. Because that would be a different story that ends with me in jail. This woman, she gave me a giant hickey on my neck. Gave me this huge hickey. She was proud of herself. I was like, well, you gotta go. And I kind of figured if she left, the hickey would leave with her. That's not how hickeys work. But I had this hickey for like a week and a half. And I ran into a friend of mine and he saw me with this hickey. And if I was a normal person, I'd have been like, oh yeah, I was making out with this lady who thought she was a vampire. She wasn't. But I didn't do that. Instead, I pretended like I didn't know what it was. And my friend was like, well, you got this bruise here. And then being silly, he was like, or maybe it's cancer. And I saw an opening. And I looked at my friend, knowing full well it was not cancer, and said to him, do you think it could be cancer? And for the next week and a half, I let my friend believe I might have fake cancer. And he felt bad, like he was taking me out for like dinners to keep my spirits up. And he's checking in on me and I gotta tell him about fake doctor's appointments and fake biopsy results. And he signed up for a marathon. And I was cool with it, all because in my mind, fake cancer made more sense than just saying, yeah, I've been hanging out with this lady who thinks it's cool to give hickeys to people. But I hate hickeys, and it's weird because if you're seeing somebody who likes giving hickeys, then guess what? You're into hickeys now. Like if you're seeing somebody who's a racist, you're a racist too. Like that's just the way it works. If you're seeing somebody who's got a friend named Megan, who only knows one adjective, and it's the word banging, you got a friend named Megan who thinks everything's banging. And you could tell people that you don't like Megan, but chances are you had dinner with Megan once and you had a banging time. But that's the weird thing is like you're connected in this way, and we all want that connection. We all want that connection, that thing that makes us say, I will do anything for that person. Love is one of those weird things, because I see it. I go to all these weddings, and I see it. I went to this wedding recently. I thought it was a gay wedding. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I thought it was a wedding between gay people. I was excited for that, because I've been to a lot of straight weddings. They're reruns at this point. They are. I know how they're going to end half the time. That's a joke about statistics. But I was very excited because I thought this was a gay wedding. And here's the thing. It was the wedding of a friend of mine who I've known for 5 years. 5 years. So to recap, I went to the wedding of a friend of mine that I've known for 5 years. That for 5 years I just assumed was a lesbian. It is a weird moment in your friendship when your friend calls you up and is like, hey, guess what? I'm getting married. And your response is, oh my God, that's so amazing. Look at how far we've come as a society that you can get married. Oh, all things are possible in Obama's America. She's like, what do you mean that I could get married? you know, because you're a lesbian. That's another weird moment in your friendship. When your friend of 5 years asks you, wait, why for the last 5 years have you thought I was a lesbian? And you can't just say, well, when we met, you didn't want to fuck me, so A to B to C. But there was something that happened in our friendship, something that happened early on that I saw and I was like, oh, okay, she's a lesbian. I took it as that. I didn't think anything of it and we were friends and it was just like, whatever. And I was trying to think of what it was and the only thing that I could come up with was that she makes her own ice cream. Which is a stereotype that has never been applied to gay people. Ben and Jerry just work together. That partnership ends at 5. No one has ever been like,
well, you know that Carol, she's a real Cold Stone Creamery when it comes to the ladies.
It wasn't a gay wedding. It was, however, a vegan wedding. Yeah, that's the right response. Because unlike sexual orientation, that is a choice. And it's not my choice. So it just feels like if I had a wedding, I would have to have a vegan option for my vegan friends. Just something. Just some beef jerky in the alley. That's fine. Just put some beef. I'll eat it. I'll fucking eat it and love it. If I had a kid who was gay, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But if I had a kid who was vegan, I just know there's gonna be some tough Thanksgivings. That's just a lot of like, no, you would not bring the tofurkey into this house. Where'd you learn that? Your fancy liberal art school? See, this is why I said the boy should have gone to jail. No, the Bible said bacon, lettuce, and cheese, not seitan, lettuce, and leaves. Whatever hateful thing I could figure out. He'd go running off to his room and his mom would have to go check in on him, just like, that's just your father, he didn't grow up the same way you did. But are you sure you're vegan? I didn't grow up that way though. I didn't start eating vegetables till I turned 30. Like for real, I didn't start eating vegetables till I turned 30 because for the first 30 years of my life, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna treat my body like a libertarian utopia. I'm just gonna let the free market decide. More often than not, the free market decided donuts. But I learned something about libertarian utopias, which is that at some point in a libertarian utopia, especially the ones in your stomach, the have-nots will rise up. But in this case, they rose up in the form of ulcers. Yeah. And it's weird because at an early age, if you get ulcers, then you got to change your diet, and I had to start doing all this stuff and take medicine and start eating vegetables. And so I did, and I've started eating vegetables. I'll eat Brussels sprouts. They got to have bacon in them. I'll eat kale. It also has to have bacon in it. Basically, I'll eat bacon. That's why it didn't work out with Teresa. I had a friend who told me, they were like,
hey, why don't you try going vegetarian for a month?
I was like, why don't you stop being my friend? That's nothing against vegetarians. I like vegetarians. I actually, when I was at that vegan wedding, I hung out with this vegetarian, and she was really cool. Like, we really hit it off and stuff, and she was a lot of fun to hang out with. And I learned a lot about vegetarians. Main thing I learned is that vegetarians are always just about 3 drinks away from a cheeseburger. All right, guys, thank you very much.